it's nearly impossible to get somewhere if you're not clear where it is that you're trying to get. And it sounds so obvious that, and yet I have found over and over again when I've looked at companies that are in trouble, one of the key things that's missing is a clarity about what it is that they're trying to do. You know, what is success? What is going to be the big tick in the box in 3 years' time, in 5 years' time? That lack of clarity about where you're going creates an enormous number of problems. And it's so simple and so straightforward, and yet any number of times it doesn't happen. For me, a very personal example, when I first arrived at Granada, it was a company in deep trouble. It was in lots of things, including television. People tend to think of it as just being in television, but it was in lots of other businesses. And in none of the businesses was there a clear set of aims as to what success was going to be. And therefore we were flailing around in all sorts of ways. And the first task for me was to get the half a dozen people who run the key companies within Granada to sit down and simply lay out what are the things that you're actually trying to do. And without exception, they didn't know. They didn't know. And it's amazing how helpful it was to those who were up for it to then take on board what was it they were trying to do, so that at least everything they then did and everything they asked other people to do, more importantly, fitted into that overall aim. We were bouncing round and round and round in circles. We didn't know whether we were in the catering business, were we in the hotel business, were we in television, what were we trying to do in television, were we trying to be the largest player in the ITV network. We just didn't know. We just didn't have a clear vision of what it was that we wanted. And I'm almost reluctant to use the term vision because it's so abused. For me, vision is simple, a clear view of what it is that you're aiming to do. And in leadership, I think it's very important that you don't come up with all the ideas. I mean, you mustn't come up with all the ideas. In fact, you can't come up with all the ideas in truth. You must allow people you must give them the task of clarifying for themselves what their vision for their part of the organisation is. That's how you get buy-in. People feel it's theirs because it genuinely is, in many cases, theirs, rather than something that's given down to them from above. Of course, not everybody wants to buy into exactly what it is that you want to do, and therefore it's important that, together you have a very open debate about where you might go, what the aims might be. But once you've had the debate, the decision then has to be taken, where are you going? And once that's done, those who can't buy into it, and there'll be very few, probably none, but those who can't buy into it have to go somewhere else. You can't have people sitting in the organisation who aren't there with you, where you know where you want to go and they're not prepared to. I think the lesson is a very simple one, and that is be clear about what you and the organisation are trying to do. Make it the first thing you do tomorrow morning is to actually sit down and ask yourself, I'm running this part of the business or this business. What am I trying to do? If you do that, it's amazing how much easier life becomes.